Our Weekend Watch shines a spotlight on government activity. New policy changes from the Trump administration could soon force thousands of formerly homeless people back on the streets. The Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, announcing deep cuts to its Continuum of Care program. It provides permanent housing to those in need, including those living with mental illness and disabilities. Under the proposed changes, funding would shift toward transitional housing programs, which may require work or other service. Housing experts warn the new HUD rules could push vulnerable people back into homelessness and ultimately prove to be counterproductive. And here to talk more about the issue is Sydney King-Pineda from the Illinois Answers Project. First of all, good morning. Thank you for being here.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Why don't we just walk through some of the key changes to the housing program that are really of concern?
Yeah, well, some of those changes include penalties to programs that emphasize race or gender equity. As you mentioned, work permits for people who are looking for housing. But one of the biggest changes is a drastic reduction in the amount of money that local groups can spend on this permanent supportive housing. Right now, local groups estimate that they're spending at least 80% of their federal dollars on these long-term solutions. HUD is asking that they reduce by next year that spending to just 1/3.
Wow, that is significant. And how do these changes really just impact people who live in Illinois?
Yeah, I mean, those changes can be immediate. I spoke with a woman a few weeks ago who is living in permanent supportive housing. She's living with 2 chronic disabilities. She used to work a corporate job, but after being diagnosed with those illnesses, she can't work anymore the same way she used to. And so she needs someone to help subsidize her rent. And there are thousands of other Illinoisans who are in that predicament. If these groups have to decide, they can't spend money on these programs anymore, those people could be back out on the street.
And as you mentioned, that one anecdote, each person's story is different, right? I mean, you can't just group all people in. Everybody's got these different experiences. Is there any recourse for her or others who may be at risk of losing their homes?
Yeah, I mean, everything's not set in stone yet. These grants have not run out yet until next year. And so right now, what these local groups who provide the housing are doing is strategizing how they can keep people in those homes, maybe using private dollars or other federal grant opportunities to keep the funding steady.
Is there any chance that these policy changes will be delayed? I know you mentioned that the timeline there, but beyond what you just mentioned?
Yeah, so HUD actually does have permission from Congress to extend contracts as they are for another 2 years. So the administration could take that opportunity. And also last week, the state's attorney is in a coalition with other states filed a lawsuit against HUD, hoping to halt these changes and maybe get some negotiations done.
I know you kind of mentioned it there too just a second ago, but what would you recommend to people watching who may be in this situation? What should they do? Should they be informing themselves? What kinds of things that should they be doing to counteract what may happen?
Certainly, yeah. I think informing yourself is one thing. And also the thing about homelessness advocacy is it's a nonpartisan issue. And so reaching out to your congressperson and encourage them to reach out to HUD and say, hey, we don't want these changes, is something that people who are living in this housing can do for themselves.
Great. Sydney, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it.